Hello and welcome. I'm Joy McKnight, editor of The Banker, and with me in the studio is Gonzalo Gortázar, CEO of CaixaBank, to talk about the bank's successful integration with Bankia, its strategic objectives in 2023, and expansion in Italy. Gonzalo, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So CaixaBank had very good results at the end of 2022, including more than 3 billion in terms of profits. What were the highlights in terms of the bank's performance for you?
Well, the highlights of our results last year were the fact that they were achieved in a year of integration of two very large franchises like CaixaBank and Bankia. When you look at the fact that our income grew by 5.5%, our costs came down by the same 5.5%. This is the result of the synergies that we achieved in the integration with Bankia, and hence our operating result was up 20%. So the activity was good. We actually gained market share in a number of parts of the business. But what's most striking is that in the meantime, we had to consolidate 1,500 branches. We had to move almost 10 million clients between branches. We had over 6,000 people leaving and many other things inside the bank. But we were able to combine very fast integration with a pretty good commercial and financial performance.
But that's the most impressive thing, I think, is that the big merger, which is the biggest in Spanish history, the authorities gave permission in March 2021. Within a year, you were already finished with 90% of the integration, including the IT integration, which is very impressive. So what were the lessons learned during that process?
Well, quite a few, I have to say, but if I think of the main reasons why this process was a successful one, I would say first is we had it well designed. We had good plans. We had thought about it carefully. And hence, before actually getting into the transaction, we knew what the strategy was to be. We knew we had the decisions of what would be the main priorities for the bank in terms of how do we integrate different areas. Then once you have a fairly detailed plan agreed, then you need to move onto the phase of execution. Execution needs to be very fast. If you think of the overlap that exists between two large banks operating in the same market, it's always difficult. So we had a view that given that it was going to be difficult, at least we had to make it very short. And here we had, as you said, the enabler of the IT integration, with thanks to our teams, worked out very soon and very well, which allowed really to put things together. Having the management in place from day one, the top 400 people appointed from day one, was very much needed. And then finally, I will highlight the fact that we had this view of we're one team from the beginning. How did it happen? We all tried because we had similar history, similar values. The tone from the top was important. We were a one single board, a management team from the very beginning. And hence we didn't have a lot of cultural disputes and not much debates and hesitation as to where we needed to go, because we actually were working as one team.
Excellent. And your strategic plan has been in place since 2022. Obviously, we're in a very different economic environment and also the rising interest rates. How has that affected your plan?
Our plan was announced in May. To some extent, many of the things that we're seeing today were already somewhat embedded in our views in May. So the need to focus on sustainability, being a reference bank in sustainability, the need to make sure that our client centricity resulted in a renewed thirst for growing the business. All these things, I would say, have not changed. There are some elements that are different, and those are environment. Fortunately, we had a view that was conservative of the time, and hence we started this phase with a fairly solid balance sheet, including liquidity, solvency, asset quality, which means that we are not too distracted by the uncertainties that we have, because we feel that the downside is very well protected. At the same time, the fact that rates have gone up I would say, higher, and it seems that for longer than we had thought. It's meant a difference, particularly for our deposit gathering business. And this means that we need to invest even more than what we were planning to do on the traditional banking business, serving our customers. Some of them coming still physically to the branches, some of the senior people, senior citizens that need our help for basic banking services. We are doing it with a renewed focus because it's what we have to do. And on top of that, this business is, thanks to higher rates, again, a profitable one.
Excellent. And I know CaixaBank just launched its first Italian branch with a full banking license. How does that fit into your growth plans in the future?
Well, our international strategy is focused on developing our institutional business, our wholesale CIB division. We have a view that the bank is a retail bank in Spain and Portugal, and that's where our market is. But for corporates, our market is Europe and to some extent the entire world. We want to work with the corporates we know throughout their area of activity, certainly in Europe where we share the same currency. Opening the Italian branch is the last of a number of steps we've been making over the last 6-7 years, including London, Frankfurt and Paris, which we all opened in this period. And again, it's an effort to be close to our customers on the corporate side, on the large companies, and for those companies that have particular sort of trade and other relationship between the home countries and Spain, we are a natural bank to work with.
Excellent. And my last question is bringing it back to the home market of Spain. Obviously, there is some potential in terms of a GDP slowdown in Spain. What will CaixaBank do to really support its retail, its corporate, and its SME customers going forward?
Well, if we have a negative economic environment in Spain, which I would say is a if, because we still are hoping that the actual slowdown in the economy is not going to be that bad, but we have to see. We will be close to our clients as always. Now, close to our clients means we need to be operational to help them, particularly on the lending front, because they may have needs to go through a tougher time, be it families with their mortgages or companies with additional working capital needs or other things. We need to be in good shape. We need to be able to fund them appropriately and to renegotiate terms where we need to if they are going through a difficult situation. All these together with our well-known social DNA, where we have a long history of actions and initiatives helping our clients, be it in microfinance, be it in financial inclusion, in extending insurance to a large critical mass of Spaniards. That's something that we want to continue to do. And then finally, fortunately, if we stay profitable, 30% of our profits go to the La Caixa Foundation, and La Caixa Foundation in turn reverts these profits, over 500 million euros per annum, to the Spanish society through their social welfare. So plenty of things for us to do to help our clients in difficult times, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Gonzalo.
My pleasure. Thank you once again, Joy.